Hi everyone, welcome back to another series of Illuminating Primary Care podcasts. This is obviously a podcast for GPs and healthcare professionals. Now, as many of you will know, my name's Thomas. I'm Divisional Manager here at Menlo Park International, and we focus obviously on sending GPs into both Australia and Canada. Now, I'm absolutely delighted to say today that I'm here joined by the very own Richard Mitham. Richard is a UK trained GP who actually made the big move into Canada many years ago now, and has since actually opened up his own clinic. So Richard's a fantastic GP and a great person that I've had the pleasure to work with for a very long time now, and honestly couldn't be happier to have him on the show.
Oh, that's great. Thanks very much, Thomas. It's good to be on the show. Thank you very much.
Great to have you. Great to have you. So for our listeners, what we'll be doing today is we'll be diving into really kind of what motivated Richard to make the move, the challenges that he's had along the way, and really just how life is as a GP down in Canada. And we'll also run through some comparisons to the UK as well. So yeah, without further ado, Richard, again, thank you very much for joining us today. And obviously, before we get into your journey around obviously why you made the move, could you give the listeners a little bit of a background on maybe just your career here in the UK?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's I suppose there's quite a few ways of being a GP in the UK, but mine started. I'm from South London originally, from Croydon, and I went to St George's Hospital Medical School, which wasn't too far from home, and went through various different jobs, as you do when you're trying to when you're on GP training. So picked up on lots of good experience from all of those aspects, and eventually landed and became a ST3 in Guildford in Surrey, which was a fantastic experience. And then from there, I took a salaried job. I know a lot of people either go locuming or salaried, or if they want to jump in, they go straight for partnership if they're lucky enough to get that opportunity. I went for salaried, and in this particular place just north of London, it was the first place they'd ever had where the salaried doctor had their own patients, which was unique for them. So that was a good. I liked being a pioneer for that one. It was always good to have your own patients. I always felt that's really the type of GP I wanted to be, rather than more the walk-in type GP. But I appreciate everyone has their own preferences, and from there, I actually made my way back to Guildford in Surrey again, and was salaried there, and eventually became a partner. So in the clinic I was in before coming to Canada, I was there for about 10 years, 8 as a partner, 2 as salaried. So a good time before the move. And but yeah, lots of a few different areas, and lots of good training, and I felt it gave me good grounding to make the move.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you had a lot of experience in the UK before even transitioning. And as you say, obviously, you certainly found that having your patients was something that you preferred, which we'll probably go into a little bit later, obviously, because our listeners will find out that that's very similar to the way it is over in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess obviously, as you say, you had a lot of experience in the UK. So a question that I really have for you is really what inspired you to kind of obviously even think about moving, especially when you were a partner in the UK. It sounds like you kind of hit that peak, if you will, from a GP in the UK. So what inspired you to leave?
Yeah. So I've always been interested in doing maybe more than just the day job. So when I was in the UK, I was an ST3 rep to the Royal College. I was the BMA rep locally. I co-founded our local federation, GP Federation. So I always had extra interest. But I think there was 2 things that came together. One was Brexit, and and that coming through, and I think for everyone that was probably a very slow burn, wasn't it? It was talked about a lot. There was a vote, and then it took ages to get going
Mm.
and happen. And for me, it was the idea that even the most ardent Brexiteer was thinking, hey, the country's going to take a bit of an economic hit for at least maybe 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And whether people were pro it or against it, we were where we were. We did it, and part of my thinking was my kids will be in their second decade of life during that 10 years, and could we in fact maybe go on a bit of an adventure instead of having to just grind through that 10 years where I was beginning to feel there was a big drop in people's, I don't know, happiness, enthusiasm.
Mhm.
And separately from that, as you mentioned, being a partner, my wife was in a similar situation. My wife was an occupational therapist in the UK in a hospital, and we'd both felt we'd got to that point where there wasn't really anywhere else to go. It was this till the end of your career, and we were looking for a challenge really, and looking for just something different,
Mhm.
and a pleasant challenge, not a challenge for the sake of it, but something fun to do.
Yeah.
And so we just, I come up with the crazy ideas at home, and my wife says, "No, tell me the sensible things about it. Give me the detail. Let's see if this is going to work." And I looked into it. I made the case, and she said, "Yeah, I think this could work actually." Looking at it,
Mhm.
and we ended up here.
Yeah. Oh wow. Wow. It's sounds like an awful lot of thought went into it.
Oh yeah,
Obviously, maybe you kind of came up with the creative ideas, and she was more the logical thinking. Thinking about the kids. Thinking about
hundred
obviously you
percent.
all wider,
Yeah,
as a wider family as well.
yeah,
But yeah, sounds like a fantastic reason and a story to actually make you want to leave in the first place. And I guess that takes us on to where did you even come across, or kind of how did you first hear about opportunities in Canada for UK GPs?
yeah. So when I'm the sort of person, I think probably a lot of doctors are, when we're looking at something, we're used to learning lists. We learn lists
Mhm.
and lists and lists and lists of stuff.
Yeah.
And I started to think, my first thought was actually, yeah, aviation medicine, doing other things,
Oh
doing
wow.
something different. I was looking into a lot of different aspects of things that I could somehow add into my day job in England. But when I looked further, I started to think, what about going abroad?
Mm.
I'd never lived abroad before. I'd always lived in England, but I thought, what about the opportunity? And my first thought, as probably most GPs are, you think Australia. Australia is probably the most popular place that GPs often go to, maybe followed by New Zealand a little bit as well. But um, and some people go permanently, some people go as part of a portion of their career where they come back again. They intend to. Um, and we've been to Australia and we like it very much, and New Zealand as well. But I just thought, it is a long way away, and but we thought, what about Canada?
Mm.
I looked at other places. I looked at the Middle East as well, and I looked at Canada, and you start to look into the detail about, well, how do you make this move? Like, how are they going to recognize my training? And would this work? And
Yeah.
actually, pleasantly surprised with Canada. For me at the time, it was relatively straightforward. Again, middle of COVID. Um, the objective was, go through the immigration papers, which are just
Mhm.
sit on a conveyor belt and fill in the forms as they come in, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
It very much is
And
like that.
oh, it really is. And but from the professional point of view, it was, you have to do one written paper, as it were, one go to do one paper, which thankfully now they've scrapped. So
Yes.
anyone listening to this, don't be put off by the exam thing. It's
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that's
And
been taken away.
it's the MCCQE exam,
That's it.
for our
That's it.
listeners that
That's it.
may have heard but not sure which one it is,
Yeah.
which is referring to.
Yeah. And for me, I went there knowing that I'd have to take this exam in London, which I
Hmm.
did, and also at the time knowing I'd have to take a part two when I got
Yeah.
to Canada. And that was a practical exam, a bit like the listeners will know about having an OSCE when they do
Hmm.
their exams at medical school. So I was prepared to do those two things, and great for anyone following us because those two things have disappeared. The practical disappeared first, so I didn't have to do that
Yes.
in the end, and now the actual written exam is gone. So for me, if I was looking at it now, I'd be even more enthusiastic because it just means that your training is recognized, and that's a very nice feeling. Um, and we looked into I looked into the whole of Canada. I looked into every province, every territory. Snow came as a big factor. I thought, I don't want to be shoveling snow the whole time. So we looked at British Columbia, and I'd never been to Canada. We had a plan of going there for a holiday before COVID hit, and we'd
Mm.
booked it. We'd booked it. We were going to go in the June of 2020 and go see what it's like. And it's we couldn't travel. You couldn't travel for leisure purposes, so
No.
we couldn't see it. So we had to make the choice. Do we just go without ever having set foot in Canada before? And we just thought, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Worst case scenario, it's a year out and you come back. We call it a sabbatical.
Yeah.
You go and have an experience. So you can do that. You can do that, and it doesn't have to be forever. It can be forever, but you can come back. And so for us, the flexibility, it was worth the risk of trying. So that we
Yeah.
went for it.
Yeah. And here you now are, many
Yeah.
years later, with your own clinic, and certainly not looking back.
No. No, it's fun. It's really fun. I think one of the aspects that makes it fun, that I realized straight on, was the medicine is very, very, very similar. So
Mm.
you are practicing in a way that you already know. The guidelines are very similar, and often the guidelines are taken from the UK. There are some that are taken from the US as well, but they're blended and are very sensible. I've not come across any clinical decisions that vary from the way I would have done things in England anyway.
Wow.
So that makes it really easy to do. The names of the medicines are the same, and I think the biggest overwhelming thing is the gratefulness you get from patients. They really do. They really are grateful to see you, and it's actually very nice to do that rather than constantly feel like you're, yes, providing a service and you're trying to do your very best for people, but not really hearing any confirmation about how the end user's feeling it.
Hmm.
And I've never been in a situation where people have been so grateful and said thank you. People say to me, "Thanks for coming to our country. We're so appreciative of you guys coming." And in particular, UK trained doctors. One thing that the patients point out a lot is that we listen to people,
Mm.
and I think that might be a difference in training. As your listeners will know, the ST3 year is when you're in clinic and you're really you've pretty much doing your exams, but you're really honing the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that the UK does really well, and it is greatly appreciated by Canadian patients.
Yeah.
So just having that listening aspect, it goes down great with patients, and it works very nicely, and you get very good interactions that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The appreciation. There was something I was going to ask you about a little bit later on. But it's but the value and the appreciation that you have as a GP in Canada is something that consistently comes up. When GPs start placing in the past, but also obviously as you say you've mentioned, and it just seems to be on another level rather than having
Yeah,
somebody that just comes in and just almost is just wasting your time a little bit from what some GPs say to me, and they just feel like they're just pushing paper almost. You really are valued and
yeah,
respected in a completely different level.
yeah. It certainly is. So British Columbia has around 5-6 million people, and estimates vary, but about half of those guys don't have their own registered GP. And that's not through lack of wanting to, it's lack of numbers of GPs.
Yeah.
And so when a patient does have a GP that's their GP, they really value it. It's something
Mm.
that they know the alternative is not good practice, and they know that they want to work with you. They really, they do want to take care. They do want to have um, some, let's say, some responsibility for their own healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come to you when they need to, rather than just for any reason.
Yeah.
And they've come because there is a problem, and they want your advice, and they value that advice, and they'll
Mm.
work with you on a solution. So it's nice to have those shared management opportunities, and people who are genuinely listening to you, and as always, not you may not always come up with the same conclusion, but it's a very respectful conversation. So it's a really nice way of practicing medicine.
No, it sounds it. It sounds like ultimately you've made the best decision physically possible. Which I was going to say to you, when you were leaving the UK and leaving
Yeah.
the NHS behind, was that a tough decision? Ultimately
Oh
to
yeah.
take that leap.
Hmm.
You know, how
Oh,
did that come?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I believe in the NHS. I believe in a free at the point of delivery healthcare system for
Mm,
people. I believe that no one should have to worry about their health coverage because they, choose health over heating and lighting. It should be covered there, and it should be not a thought. So that's what I believe in. And to leave the NHS is a big deal. You don't do it lightly when you believe in something. Canada's healthcare system is actually a provincially run thing. So each province has their own slightly nuanced system. The overarching system is free at the point of delivery. So it's almost the same. It's almost the
yeah.
same. And so part of reconciling that tough to leave for me was going to another system that is promoting that same ideal and working within that. And so for me, it was having to just learn, okay, where do I refer for this? Who do I send to that? And
Mm,
and so very much like moving to a different bit of the country and just learning how, where do I send varicose veins, or where do I do this, or how does that work? So it felt very similar in that sense, and easier to do because I wasn't moving to a system that was radically different.
yeah.
So I would say this is certainly, wouldn't like to call it an extension and be arrogant that the Canadians copy in the UK, but I'd say very similar systems, and so if you can comfortably work in the NHS, you can comfortably work in Canada.
Mm,
The difference is there's way less, let's say, management and red tape. I think doctors are certainly the centre of service provision organisation,
mhm,
and doctors are listened to. So we're part of our local organisation. We have a great. So I suppose an example would be when I was a partner in England, you'd have to pay around a third of the clinic's income to cover your patients overnight, so the local out of hours service. So a third of the income of the clinic goes there. Whereas here in Canada, that coverage still alive and well and works very nicely, but is not, it's free for the GPs to use. So it's something where you don't have to lose any income over providing that care, and
yeah, wow.
your care is good quality and provided from a local GP pool of GPs. So any GP that likes to work those type of shifts can do and are paid
Mm,
for that, but there's no obligation to do it, and
mm,
you're not having to pay for it. So patients have a nice 24/7 wraparound care, which is locally provided. And when those out of hours doctors see your patients, you get a very nice report that's sitting on your desk when you turn your computer on in the morning. So the service works very nicely. It's nimble because it's way less top heavy.
Yeah, yeah. You've dug into a lot of differences, already, and everything sounds amazing. I think a lot of our listeners are going to be thinking, this sounds too good to be true already, Richard. But I guess, could you kind of elaborate into some more of the differences, or maybe the structure of the primary care in Canada compared to the UK and the NHS?
Yeah, yeah. You feel very much you're connected to the top and the bottom
Mm,
more directly.
mm,
So you have more of a say. So I work in a city called Langley. There's a Langley division of primary care, and the group, you're probably looking at maybe 50, 70 GPs, that sort of number that make up that group. And from that group, the local health organization is organized.
mm,
So they have regular meetings, they have regular educational meetings. You can go along to that and you can take part, and you can just be a listener, or you can be part of
mhm,
it, or you can help with research. So all those things are available. And there are some fantastic administrators that help run that, but the numbers are not so swollen that things are getting clogged and bogged down.
mm,
So if an idea comes up and people want to try a particular way of doing things, then it can be implemented. One exciting thing that's happening where we are is the Simon Fraser University, which is not too far from Langley, is opening a new medical school.
wow.
And yeah, it's great. It's starting next year, subject to government approval. They're hoping
Mhm,
that it goes through nicely, and that's going to be great. So if anyone has an interest in teaching medical students or hosting trainees, then that's coming our way as well.
mm,
So all those things that people enjoy doing in the UK to make their career for them valuable, along with doing the day job. Those opportunities are there. Certainly, research, training, GP trainee training, as well as actually helping those that come from abroad. So there's a good structure of all of us that come into Canada are termed international medical graduates straight
yeah.
off, and we are placed in clinics, and there are people who sponsor us. So for example, if somebody came to our clinic, they'd come as an IMG, we'd sponsor them.
Mhm,
And I was a trainer in England, and I'm using those same skills to just help doctors transition into the Canadian system in very
yeah.
much the same way. And my colleague that I work with, it was another trainer in England as well, and we look after people using those same skills. So transition wise and working here wise, I think people would certainly feel very excited that they can be as much or as little as they want to in terms of the local way it's run, but also that transition is very smooth.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. It sounds like you managed to kind of fit almost straight in. As you say, your transition obviously into the healthcare system sounded really smooth.
Yeah,
And I guess one of the big differences that I think UK GPs will find, and you're probably slightly better to kind of elaborate on this, Richard. But it's obviously here in the NHS, people's patients are within like a catchment area,
yeah,
where obviously in Canada it's very very different. Obviously people can drive 1 hour, 2 hours, to come and see you if they like you.
yeah.
Your patients are your patients.
Hmm.
So how did you find personally, obviously
Yeah.
physically building your patient base, and
Hmm.
also kind of maintaining those relationships in
Yeah.
Canada, but also to a point of actually setting up your own clinic as well?
Yeah. So in a nice way, you can run your practice, your clinic, your personal clinic as you want to.
Mm,
So whether you have your own clinic, and to be honest, that means you're just the one who's doing the staffing, paying the bills, looking after landlords or utilities or whatever it is. So you
Yeah.
can do that. But let's say you didn't want to do that and you're working in a clinic where all of that is done around you, then whether you're either of those scenarios, you're going to be attracting patients in the same way. And you might decide, I'm 100% walk in, I'm
Mhm.
100% family physician, what we would call impaneled, so signed up patients, or
Yeah.
somewhere in between. You might be a 50-50, 70-30. Doesn't matter what you want to do, you can do it as you want to.
Mm.
And for me, I was always very much, I want to see my long term patients. I'm not a walk in type of guy. Okay. So when I first arrived, you can imagine with 50% of people not having a doctor, there are people all the time asking every clinic, "Hey, have you got a new doctor? I want to sign up." So we put it out there. We put some messaging out online, signs, that sort of thing, just to get the word out. To be honest, word of mouth runs the fastest around here, and they
Yeah.
hear there's a new doctor. You see it on Facebook groups. Hey, there's a new doctor in Langley, and it goes around, and people come to you. And so for our point of view, we would have like an application form. All it is really is just a summary of their health,
Mm.
and not because they're going to be selected or deselected based on it. It's one of those things that for me, the college guidance is we're not here to select patients. We're here to just be available, take patients who want to be taken, and you shut your list when you get to whatever your capacity
Yeah.
is.
Whatever you're
Um,
comfortable with as well,
Exactly,
isn't it?
whatever you're comfortable with. And for example, I'm talking as someone who's working full time, but somebody might want to come along and work, hey, just a couple of days a week, and they want
Mhm.
their numbers to be just say so big. The stipulation is to be classed as a long-term family doctor, you just have to have 250 patients, which in relative terms, in England, I think I was touching on 3,000 patients,
Yeah.
and um, obviously, those numbers can get quite overwhelming in terms of looking after everything, the paperwork associated with every referral, everything, and not just that, the being proactive, trying to bring them in, get them checked out. They haven't had their blood pressure in the last 6 months, recall them. So all of those things can be quite a lot. So we would put it out there that we have a doctor who is looking to impanel patients, and
Mhm.
we would get those through, and we can do that as fast or as slow as that doctor would want. If they
Yeah.
said, I want to see a new patient once a day, twice a day, I want 5 a day, okay, and we'd bring them in, and we bring them onto the system, and we sign them up. So really, you determine how you want to work, you
Mm.
determine the structure. um, us that have been here a while can guide those people in terms of, I think your numbers might be a little low if you're trying to get this many people per day.
Mhm.
But again, you get to set that too. You don't have to work a set number of hours here.
Mm.
You don't have to do any particular um, elements. So I remember in England, it was, you go and work maybe 14, 16, some extras in the morning, home visits, you try to get some paperwork in between, then you get another 14, 16 in the evening, and then there's some urgent thing that came in as well, and you're trying to get all of that done. And here in Canada, you really, really, really don't have to work like that. Um,
Mm.
Home visits are not a thing here. There are, for people who are truly housebound, there are services that cover those guys. And again, you can be part of that. But home visits for your regular patients are not something you need to cram in the middle of your regular day. The convention is everyone is brought to you, and you'll see them, which does make things a little bit more efficient. I remember it would take at least half hour for every home visit you do. So, 4 home visits is 2 hours in the middle of your day, and it's quite a lot to do.
Yeah.
But
Especially
yeah,
when you're getting, I guess we'll kind of go on to this in a bit probably next, but when you're actually getting paid for the number of patients that you're seeing as well, you
yeah,
don't you almost as you say, because there's another service that's doing the home visits, you almost want to kind of focus on seeing those patients in the clinic.
Yeah,
so that
you do.
so that you can obviously kind of maximize obviously your earnings. But as you say, you highlighted really well, you've got a lot more autonomy and a lot more flexibility around, the hours that you want to do, but
Mhm.
also, that workload that you physically want to take on from the number of patients, whether you want to see somebody for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whether you want to see, do a 10-hour day or do a
Mm.
5-hour day. It's in theory, you're running your own business,
Yeah,
under the practice entity.
you are. You determine how you want to do it. Whether, as I say, as you say, whether you're the practice owner or not, you
Mm,
run it as you want to, um, in a nice way, because the pay is good, really good. You don't have to chase the pay because
yeah,
it's good enough. You really don't have to cut any corners or practice in a dangerous way or a negative way. You can be a really good doctor doing the right thing and
mm,
spending the right amount of time with a patient because the pay is good.
yeah,
You're paid for your time, you're paid for every patient interaction you do, and you're actually paid um, extras, a quarterly bonus for even just having your own list of patients. So,
yeah,
an example would be, let's say you sat down on a Saturday morning and did 3 hours worth of paperwork. You get paid for that. You get
mm,
paid on an hourly rate that you just put in and bill, and you're paid it. So
for your
you can,
paperwork,
yeah,
which
you
these
don't
UK
have to do
GPs
work that you feel is unrewarded.
taking it
You
home with
everything,
them.
yeah, you
You
can do
you're
it.
actually getting paid for value. It's that value proposition that we do keep on
I
saying, isn't it?
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. So I see my patients. I go home, let's say early afternoon to home. I'm still available for my patients, and I'll switch to telephone calls. I actually do a lot of them from home as well. So I try to offer both the sort of the telephone call type appointments and the face-to-face appointments on the same day. I try to offer. I start early just because I want to give the people opportunity to come and see me before they go to work. So
Mhm.
I try to be flexible in that sense. Um, and yes, that paperwork can happen when you want it to be, but you're remunerated for it. So and it's, as I said, it's good enough so you don't have to cut corners. You can practice safely, and you don't have to have a crazy number of patients that you feel is not manageable.
Mm,
You can, if you said 500, 1,000 is what I want, or I just want to be walk-in only, it's totally okay.
yeah,
And the system will certainly pay enough to, it will be more than the UK, and it makes it enough to be able to live very comfortably here,
yeah,
um, whilst doing the right thing for patients, which
yeah.
is nice.
No, definitely, definitely. And Richard, obviously, just whilst we're talking about that pay, and I know, there's, some of the listeners and our GPs will be kind of maybe wondering what that pay is.
Yeah.
I know it's difficult for you to maybe give an indication,
Yeah.
but if you kind of had to maybe ballpark or give, kind of two examples, what would you
Yeah. Yeah.
potentially maybe say?
So in a nice way, it's always good to see something on paper. So a little, what do they call it? A pro tip that you can give in this situation is, if you ever are looking to join a clinic in Canada, or in particular in BC, because I know BC,
Mm,
and people are telling you you'll earn this, you'll earn that, and you're not sure, just go online. Everyone's wages is published,
yes,
and you can see it. So you'd go to the Blue Book. You just Google Blue Book, British Columbia. There's one every year, 2024,
it's
2025
fascinating
onward.
to look
Yeah,
through as well. To be honest with you, it's
and you'll
mind
see
some of those figures are mind blowing.
they are incredible. Now,
Yeah,
yes, you've got a mix of different doctors there, and I appreciate I'm a GP, and not everyone watching there is going to be a GP, who wants to come to Canada, but you'll get a variety. But you'll see that doctor. So, but if you have to put it down, and if I say how it works, I've gone from living in a three-bed semi-detached house uh, with my wife and kids, and never even thought about private school because it was never an option,
Mm.
to having the option here to say we live in a detached house in a nice area. The kids, financially, we have the option to be able to go to a private school if we wanted to, and also to do whatever else you want to do. I'd never been skiing before I came to British Columbia, so I got up to a fairly all right level. And so those opportunities are there that I've never had before personally. So it's
Yeah.
opened up doors for me. But I would say the easiest way to think of it is, um, think of what you're working now, and you can easily double, if not triple, your money,
Yeah.
and you won't have to um, have quite the same number of length of hours because the obligations are not there. So you can actually work in a smarter, more comfortable way. You'll get more sleep. You don't do evenings and weekends if you don't want to, yet still earn a very decent wage. I'm not sure, genuinely, I'm not sure if there's anywhere in the world right now that you could earn as much, um, in a generalized system. I appreciate somebody might land an amazing job somewhere, getting a lot of money, but as a system, I don't know if anywhere else is currently, even comparing to places like Toronto, which I know is traditionally, if you go to Canada, you tend to go to Toronto. From the British Columbia point of view, Toronto seems a little saturated. It's a great place, but
Mhm.
BC, you certainly, I would say, are earning more money and living the life you want to live. And
Yeah.
and I'll always emphasize, and not cutting corners with patient care. So you're
Mhm.
still doing that
Which is
good,
important.
decent care, but you're getting remunerated for it, which is
Yeah.
obviously a really nice feeling.
Mm. Definitely. Definitely. I was actually had a little question down to kind of ask you, and it was Richard. Do you feel like you made the right decision, for your family and your career?
Yeah, no, I do, and I know that there's lots of reasons why people might be hesitant. There's
Hmm.
some, being disloyal to the UK, or some doctors who've made a move to the UK, not wanting to make yet another move to another country, or just fear of, I've never been abroad, lived somewhere, I don't want to go. For us, having never done it before, absolutely the right move.
Mm.
And um, I intend to be here for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to come back. I actually removed myself from the GMC register, which your listeners will
Must
be
take
thinking
it.
about. They'll be thinking about
Yeah,
registration. It was really hard to do that.
I
Actually,
can imagine.
you have to jump through a lot of hoops to be taken off the list. It's hard enough to get on in the first place, but it's one of those that I was so sure that I wouldn't be coming back. I removed that. I didn't want the hassle of having to. I know I could have been on a pause, but I just thought I actually know that I'm here to stay.
Mm.
I'm really enjoying it. The opportunities it's given myself, my family. We we got to the 1 year mark, or about 9 month mark, with the kids, and I asked them, um, because our house in England, we didn't rent out, sell, or do anything. It was actually quite tight in the
Right.
first year because we were paying a mortgage on a house in England, and we were renting in Canada, and this house wasn't bringing in any money at all because we wanted to keep it clear just in case this was a disaster
Yeah.
and we need a place to go. And we asked the kids, and they were 100% enthusiastic. Nope, we want to stay. Keep us here. This is great. And these are
Oh,
guys that
brilliant.
had to lose their friends
Yeah.
and everything you lose as a kid, and that's very hard. That's
Mm.
probably that was one of the biggest downsides for me, was the thought of taking our kids away from their friends. And yes, they do speak on Zoom and video calls and various things like that nowadays, but that was hard because you never want to, I'm going to say, harm your kids in any way,
Hmm.
and reduce their experiences. But at the same time, balancing that with, gosh, it's all the different things that are here. Beautiful British Columbia, mountains, hiking.
Mm.
There's even water parks. There's fun stuff like that. There's theatre, there's West End theatre. So there's every aspect. There's fantastic cycling, mountain biking,
Yeah,
flat
which
cycling,
you're a
road
keen
cycling.
lover of.
Oh, I love cycling. Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, it's great. Well, I've got my Halford bike. I shipped it over. I realized that the brakes are around the other way here in Canada. I didn't realize that bikes have brakes on a certain side, but they do.
Oh,
So be aware if you're ever on a Canadian bike and you press the wrong brake, your front wheel goes and not your back wheel. So there's lots of different things like that. But yeah,
for our
it's
listeners, me and Mitchell will send pictures when we're on bike rides. We're both keen cyclists, so
yeah.
we'll send each other pictures whilst we're out and things.
Oh yeah. It's
Um,
beautiful. It really is. And
but yeah,
it's allowed me to even just be a bit fitter. I've been able to do more exercise. I've been able to be more active. I work-life balance. Yeah, 100%. The kids are feeling it. My wife and myself are feeling it. We are very, very happy here. And, we're happy we've got the capacity to really help anyone else who is also happy and wants to
mm,
come and be happy.
yeah,
If anyone needs any help out there, we're most welcome to reach out and anything we can do to help. We were looking at everything from finances. How much is a loaf of bread? We literally did our grocery
full
shopping
spreadsheet.
and yeah, just checking it all out. And it just the system and the pay makes it comfortable.
Yeah,
You can live comfortably and you can enjoy.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. It sounds like you certainly made the right decision for yourself, but also obviously it sounds like the family love it as well. It's
Yeah.
another question I actually had for you was, kind of, when you look back, do you and the family prefer it? And you just answered, you hit the nail on the head,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of British families, or families who have lived in Britain
Mm,
here. So my kids are at school with other British kids, Canadian kids as well, people from various different areas. It's a very multicultural situation, which is again what I'm used to being from Croydon. It's a multicultural environment that I'm used to, and you get the
yeah,
same here. And I think that's a good thing. I think that you learn from people's experiences, and so um, from that point of view, it is good,
yeah.
and yeah, it's
Mhm.
uh, it's really beneficial.
No, good. And Rich, you mentioned that obviously, having a better work-life balance has allowed you to do more. You were talking about obviously some of the things that you can that Canada provides and Vancouver provides, obviously from the mountains, the countryside, and everything else. But has that allowed you and the family to then spend more time together as well?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah, no, it really
Brought you
has.
guys closer?
No, yeah, I think it does make a big difference. We can do things together. We can
Yeah.
look at a weekend and nobody's on call, nobody's doing anything. We can just go and you know pick the best weather day and do whatever we want to do. We can
Mm,
hike, well, where we live, we're surrounded by mountains and there's lovely views. There's creeks and that classic scene when you see the mountains and you've got the river running by, and that's here. So you
yeah.
you have it. There's some interesting wildlife. You you get used to bears, which I appreciate may scare a lot of people. They're really not scary in the sense that those bears that kill you are grizzly bears, and they're not here.
You've got the
Um,
friendly ones.
yeah, we got these black bears that just plod along, and you see them and you just leave them be, but they just do their thing, and
They do their
and
own
and you
thing. Yeah.
exactly. You don't have foxes in the same way you have raccoons. Raccoons have
Mm,
got way more dexterous hands, so they can rip your bags open and your rubbish bags that you put out to be collected. They're very mischievous in that sense. So you work out how to deal with them as well. So there's
yeah.
there's little differences, but it's fun. And
Yeah.
yeah, the kids are very happy, and you do get that family life together,
Yeah.
and opportunities for the kids. I mean, you know, they joined the scouts here, really enjoyed the scouts. They were scouts in England as well, but I suppose that the difference here
I was
is you
going to
really
say
are in the
it's
wilderness. Yeah,
Big
It's
difference between doing that in Croydon to
absolutely, absolutely.
to
So
here
yeah,
around
they
Langley,
really
maybe.
do. Oh, they loved it, and so they do scouts. They just have lots of opportunity. They do sport. Football's massive. Football's
Mm,
massive. I wasn't expecting that, but I was thinking, oh, it's all going to be American football and all that stuff. No, like as they call it here, soccer, football, is big here, and
mm,
I'm even seeing people playing cricket. So you got cricket, you got football. Yeah, there's baseball as well. I'm getting my head around baseball, all the maneuvers and all of that. But but no, it's fun. And obviously I missed out the big one here,
yeah,
hockey, ice hockey,
ice hockey. Yeah,
which
it's
is
huge.
it's huge. It's huge. And when I lived in Guildford, they had the Guildford Flames there, so I did get to see some hockey. But gosh, it's like going from non-division to Champions League. It's incredible, the level here and
Mm,
the passion. So definitely it's fun, and you can watch it at different levels. So yeah, I'd encourage people definitely go see a hockey match. It's good fun. It's
yes,
interesting.
they're good fun to watch. Never mind see in person. So
Yeah, yeah,
definitely something. If you recommend it, we'll have to add it to our lists.
quite
We'll
right,
all have to add it to
quite
our
right.
lists. But yeah, Richard, you've given a great insight to our listeners. So we really appreciate that so far. Um, a few other questions, and some of these questions that came from some of our listeners, some of the GPs that I talk with, that just had obviously some questions that they wanted me to kind of ask, and we'll just kind of fire through some of these if that's okay. So,
Of course, yeah, yeah,
one of them was, what was your biggest challenge you
yeah.
faced in those early days?
I think it's finding your rhythm in working.
Mm,
So when you're settled somewhere, even if you're locuming, you get your rhythm. You know what you're doing,
mm,
and it's the idea of even myself who wants to have their regular patients. You have to basically start as a walk-in doctor because you're receiving those patients
yeah.
straight off, brand new. So it was really just trying to determine what felt comfortable, how to bring those patients in and see them regularly, and what's the convention, how often do patients expect to be seen, all
Mm,
those sort of little things that um, I wasn't used to. So it's really getting the rhythm right.
mm,
um, and I think probably one of the biggest challenges is it doesn't have to be a big pot of money, but you need a certain pot of money when you land somewhere, because if you're paying rent, you pay rent, but you probably are going to want to buy a car and and
mm,
and those sorts of things. So in the year before we came to Canada, part of me was I was trying to work my socks off, trying to just build up a little bit of money to be able to make that comfortable.
mm.
But actually, the money does soon start coming in, which
Yeah.
helps. So I was overcautious, I think.
It's a
But
better way
but
to
yeah,
be, though.
yeah,
Rather be
I think
overcautious than undercautious. But obviously there
absolutely.
are obviously other options as well, aren't there? You can rent
Yep,
cars or
yep,
things like that. Obviously for people that maybe would love to be able to rack up lots of money, but obviously unfortunately can't with
yep,
the lack of positions and work, available
yeah,
work in the UK. So they
yeah.
could, still transition.
Oh
Look
yeah.
obviously renting a house or an Airbnb. Look to rent a car.
I got the
Um,
bus. I took the bus in every day. Everyone around is like, "You get the bus?" Like, yeah, I get the bus. I'm from Croydon. We
I
get
was going to say
buses.
you'd have
That's
been
what we
used
do.
to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was very used to that. But
Yeah,
so it's really just making sure that you have those bases covered,
mm,
and just I think really just finding your natural rhythm, works easier when you don't have to be actively thinking about how you work every day.
yeah,
So once you get your rhythm going, and I think probably the key to that is working with a clinic that listens to you, so
yeah.
you can formulate that
I think it's
with
one
the
of the most
clinic.
important things, isn't it?
Yeah,
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 it's something that I try and say to a lot of GPs. There's a lot of different types of clinics out there, but it's not about just finding a job and a clinic that's trying to offer you the highest percentage. Because if they're not as got as many services or not got as huge patient base, or they haven't got as much of a need, you'd be earning less money. So don't think about the money side of things, obviously from a percentage, but then also
Yeah,
try and look at the support that a clinic can actually provide to
totally,
you. You know, how are
totally.
they going to help you build your patient base? How are they going to help you, to continue developing your skills and your specialities? Because this is obviously what can bring in even more money, and additional service that you can offer.
Yep. No, I'd
And
100% agree with that. And choice of clinic is paramount.
yeah,
And
oh yeah,
it's nice that you now do have choices to go with, you know, clinic like ours or other clinics that have that UK experience,
yeah,
that
no,
understands
definitely,
you, but can also help you transition to working in Canada.
no, exactly. Another question that somebody asked was, were there any surprises,
Yeah,
throughout the process, or anything that you wish you'd maybe known before you'd moved?
yeah. I know this sounds like a sort of turning an answer around on its head, but genuinely was easier than I thought.
Yeah.
I was, again, always preparing for the worst, but you're on the conveyor belt of going through the immigration stuff, and
Hmm.
you get your qualifications approved, and it really was as easy as just turning up. So I turned up on I think I turned up on the 1st of August. The 2nd of August happened to be the equivalent of a bank holiday, and I was working on the 3rd of August. And what was really nice about it, and I think it illustrates a point about Canada as a country,
Mm,
and I would certainly say, apart from politeness, and people are genuinely so polite, is reasonableness.
mm,
So if you've ever come across an aspect of life that you just thought was unreasonable, Canada usually has made that reasonable. So, for example, when you arrive, you technically don't get your, let's say you come on a work visa, you don't get that work visa till you literally get to the airport. And the local registration for your medical work, they say, well, you need to provide us this and you need to give us a copy of your driving license. And once we get that in the post, you can then start working. And I said, but, really, like I could work on day three. I just want to get in and I just want to get to know the place. I don't want to. Can I not go there? Like if I send you an email and then I follow it up in the post, could we do that? They turn around and said, yeah, of course you can. That's not a problem. You work, and it's just you never get that in England. It
no.
was just people are just very reasonable. If a customer service says they're going to ring you back in half an hour, they do. You get a phone call back, and they tell you their name. They've done this and that. They've looked into something for you. So yeah, very reasonable, and it just surprised at how simple things are. And I
Mm,
think it's because Canada just wants to make it work for you. Just they
mm,
really do want doctors. They don't want to make your life hard. They just want to get you settled. So yeah, that was a surprise.
yeah, no, lovely. It's like you say, the way that the Canadians are, they are just so more laid back and relaxed, but actually get
Mm.
things done.
Yeah,
It's such a better way of dealing with things, and it's that example that you gave, I think was a prime example. But
yeah,
obviously, when we're looking at the registration of the system, or to actually make this transition, as you say, a lot of GPs sit there to me and they go, okay, I've got to go, I've looked over it. It looks like there's going to be a lot of work to do. And for somebody like, yourself or myself that's actually experienced this
hmm,
process, it's, and, I've dealt with this multiple times now. It is a lot easier than people think. And a lot
yeah,
of it, once you provide the information, you're just waiting. But in comparison to, many other countries that I've dealt with as well, they're also a lot quicker,
yeah,
to actually get things done. So,
yeah.
they are on it, and
They are.
as you say, they it can be done. You can probably have be from start to finish. I would say to people, don't rush anything, but from start to finish, including the visa and getting a job, you could probably do it all in 6 months' time.
You can.
Not that I would obviously say to somebody, obviously try and do it within 6 months. I think you need to do it. Slow and steady wins the race at times, and think about doing it properly, not necessarily quickly. but I suppose it depends on individual circumstances. Whether they've got kids and a partner, and to think about as
Yeah.
well.
You really can. And the other advantage of when have if you have a UK passport and you apply for your work visa, you actually can apply to begin your application for permanent residency
Mm,
then. So I'd
yeah,
never set foot in Canada, and I'd started applying for permanent residency. So that and for me, as you say, I got the invite within 6 months. We actually took a year to go across, so I was already 1 year into the permanent residency system, which meant that it was pretty quick for me to then come here and then move on to permanent residency.
yeah,
And on top of that, you only actually have to have 3 whole years in Canada before you can apply for citizenship.
the trip, yeah.
So that's pretty quick as well. And I'm not sure of
Mm.
any other country where it's as easy as that. I think the UK is moving to something more like 10 years.
The UK is
So
moving to 10 years, which a lot of
yeah,
people are not happy with. Not
no,
happy with.
no. So and there are advantages to having PR and having citizenship. And obviously, if you're British, you don't have to give up your citizenship at all. It doesn't change you being British, but it just gives you a few little extra bits. For example, wherever you go in Canada is probably not a long way from the American border,
Mm,
and with a Canadian passport, you can just cross a little bit more easily. So it just makes life a little
yeah.
easier in that sense. If you want to go to Disneyland or wherever you want to go, but
Good close proximity to pretty much anywhere.
yeah.
And like yourself, you just come back obviously from being away. You were away over, in Canada,
Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah.
and
I like visiting different provinces. I like to experience different areas because it's such a, I mean, the second largest country in the world, so much to see. So yeah, I take the opportunity. We've got even where I am near Langley, we've got a couple of international airports. We've got Vancouver, but there's
mm,
also one called Abbotsford. There's a lot of places you can fly to
mm,
and travel, or on road you can do road trips and you can travel to lots of great places.
yeah,
Or even on the train, there's a Rockies train, which is very nice. So there's loads to do.
yes, and they're even creating a new one
Yeah,
as well. The
yeah,
what's it called? That bullet train, is it?
absolutely. Yeah. So just
I'm
yeah,
forgetting.
and that makes it quicker. So yeah, it really yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun. It's fun.
yeah,
You can plan ahead and say, okay, well, next time out. Probably the other thing to say is because you're the master of your own um, work structure. You can take the time out when you need to as well,
mm,
and
mm,
you don't have to be so constrained. So you
yes,
can decide because we appreciate that. You may want to have time out that you go back to the UK for a good number of weeks. You want to see family or you want to go somewhere else. So clinics here are definitely very cognizant of accommodating that,
yeah,
and I know every clinic's different. Our clinic in particular we do cross cover. So again, the aspects to look at when you're choosing a clinic is to
definitely,
make sure it's going to work with how you want to have your time out as well.
definitely. Definitely. And I guess obviously, two quick questions. Obviously, if we were to do it, as one sentence, if someone was hesitant about making the transition, what would you say to reassure them?
Yeah, I would say it's easier than you think. Um, comma, choose wisely, choose the clinic wisely, and get get a place a little bit like choosing your doctor. Get one
Mm,
that listens to you,
mm,
then and actually gets you and works with you. I think that's
mm.
the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah, amazing, amazing. And last question. Again, if you could sum up your journey and
Yeah.
your experience in one sentence, what would you say?
Oh, probably one word would be fulfilled. I feel fulfilled,
Amazing.
happy. I'm very proud of my background. I'm proud of
Mm,
where what I've had to do to get here. I'm proud of working in the NHS. I'm proud of the journey, the learning, the training. I'm proud of all those things, and I'm proud in a it's a weird way, but in a weird way that the patients will say, "Hey, you listen to us," and I know that's not necessarily just me. That's the way I was trained.
Mm.
So I'm proud of that training being recognised. So fulfilled, proud, happy.
Love it. Love it. Well, Richard, thank you very, very much for sharing your story with us. I honestly think and believe it's going to inspire a lot of GPs who are currently weighing up their options to make this move, and obviously to make it to Canada, specifically to the BC area, which is great. Everything that you said is truly valuable, so I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity, and as always, I'm sure I can speak for any of the doctors that have come here. If just reach out, if even if you just need some help or advice, we're always happy to help.
Yeah,
It's a big move, and but hey, for me, I think you're making the right move. It's a great opportunity, and just help to fulfill your life.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And obviously, for our listeners as well, before we close up, if you're a UK GP and you are thinking about a move to Canada, do stay tuned. There will be more episodes, potentially even another one with Richard at some point. Obviously, on other episodes, we'll be covering things like the registration and go into obviously the relocation in more detail. Just obviously ensure you are prepped and ready to obviously make this move with confidence. And as always, if you do have any questions, my details will be below. So obviously, please do feel free to drop me an email. But yeah, thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Thank you very much to Richard. And until next time, thanks for listening.